Hi, I wanted to talk today about burnout, raw vegan food burnout. Not so much eating the food, but really preparing it, thinking of things to make. I think anybody who is kind of the primary food preparer in their home probably has dealt with this at some point. You just get like burnout and tired of it. So I have 15, some of them are embedded in other ones, but 15 ideas on how to stay motivated for making raw vegan foods. I think this is a little bit particular to raw vegan foods just because as a raw vegan, you may feel kind of isolated, at least for me for years. I didn't know anyone personally who was also a raw vegan. So it's often a feeling of like being on your own with it. So in that sense, I think that it's really important to stay motivated, actually connect with other people as much as we can, even if it's by watching their video, and just really stay in the groove of why you love doing raw foods in the first place. So that would be a first tip of mine, is really connect back with why are you doing this? And most likely it's you have some kind of health concern or you just feel awesome when you're doing it and you know it's preventing health concerns to come. So just kind of remembering that and really going back into that root for you of why you made this life change, this awesome life change, can be really helpful. One thing you can do is read books, and I'll tell you these tips, most of them come from my book, I Heart Raw, so a little self-promotion there. But you can pick up a book that you have about raw vegan foods and just sort of start flipping through it. An amazing one for that is Alyssa Cohen's book, Living on Live Foods, because the first half of that book are testimonials, people's stories about before and after. Before and after pictures are so motivating to me. I don't know if they are to you, but that can be a really good way to kind of refuel yourself and get back on track. And here are some other ideas. First of all, the obvious idea of going to your recipe books and picking out a recipe maybe that you haven't done before that looks really amazing. I'm always talking about this book, Wild Plate by Laurel Anderson. It's so good. And for instance, this is a recipe I'm making today. Coconut curry. I don't know if that's backwards for you guys. It's so good. I have made this one before, but if you haven't, maybe that is inspiring for you. So that's an obvious one. You could also buy a new recipe book to inspire you to make new raw vegan dishes. Another one, if you're just burnt out and you have too many things to do and you're like, oh my God, I can't deal with trying to figure out what I'm going to make for food this week, go to this, if you've created this, which is just your weekly list of items that you're going to make every week. For me, it's bread, cereal, juice, smoothies, sometimes these noodles, milks, salad, and snacks. So if you saw my previous video where I featured this, this is just going to be a really easy list of things that you're going to make every week that you use for your grocery shopping. And super easy, you can just open it up and go, I don't know what the heck to make. I'm going to make one of these things. Great. Perfect. You're good. And if you have been keeping your recipes every week, like I suggest that you do, just keeping a list. Sometimes I'll write it on scratch paper. I recently started keeping just a nice little notebook. And here is, for instance, what I'm having this week. I just started doing this again. So this is eventually going to be a book full of things that I make every week. And eventually I will just be able to flip to a page and go, okay, I'm going to do this week again. Super easy. Highly recommend that. I've done that in different forms over the years. Another thing you can do is keep a recipe binder. So this is just a recipe book. It's a 3-ring binder of recipes that you find that you really like and want to keep around and make over again. And as another idea, something I like to do is find a recipe in just a regular old magazine, like Real Simple or something like that. Something that looks really good. And it might already be raw, but if it's not, it's a real challenge for me to actually try to make it raw myself. So that can be really fun. And also, You also get to pick out a magazine and read it with the excuse that you just need some inspiration for raw food. Not that you need an excuse to do something fun that you love. All right, another idea is to look online, obviously, not only just for new recipes, but for people who are doing raw food that you might just find really inspiring. Hopefully, I want to be one of those people for you, but there's a lot of people out there doing that, and they're super fun to watch. This morning, actually, I was feeling kind of down in the dumps and a little bit not motivated as far as making food. And so I flipped on YouTube and found this woman, and she just was so vibrant and happy and making her smoothie. And it was a little bit different than how I usually make my smoothies, and it inspired me to do that. So that can be really fun, just finding someone online that inspires you. Another one is just to go out and get a pre-made raw food. So for instance, I went to Lassen's and got these the other day. They're really just a fruit leather, but they inspired me to make this for Vivi. And I thought, oh, your mind starts going. You're like, oh, I could make this with blueberries, or, you just start getting creative with it, and it can just get those creative juices flowing. Just a trip to the store, looking for raw foods, or just looking at foods in general, even if they're not raw, not to buy necessarily, but just to inspire you. You might want to take some notes and go, oh, I really want to try making a coconut yogurt, for instance, something like that. You might just find yourself inspired. And I really recommend, while you're doing that grocery store trip, to actually purchase a couple of raw foods, or at least a few things to kind of tide you over for maybe a day or so that you can just use and not have to maybe make your thing that day, and also inspire you at the same time. All right, let me go to my list. The next one is social media. I'm a little bit off of social media for the most part right now, just because of the censorship that's happening there. But it can be a place where you can go to for inspiration, to find new recipes, find a raw food group. I used to run a raw food group on there. Find other people who are eating really healthy, are inspiring to you with their own raw food recipes. That can be a resource for you. Another idea is to just call a friend who knows what you're doing. Maybe if you're lucky, you have a friend that also eats raw. I have a friend, Kevin, who isn't currently eating raw, but has in the past. And so sometimes I'll just call him and go, Kevin, I need an idea. Or, Kevin, what are we making this week? Just like talking to someone about what you're making can inspire you, especially if it's a friend. And it can be really fun too. Another idea kind of in this same category is inviting a friend or two over for dinner. And that will inspire you because of the need to actually provide food, to kind of go through and find something fun that they might like. And just seeing your food from someone else's perspective who doesn't necessarily eat the way you do all the time can be inspiring as well, and remind you of recipes that you just really love and maybe haven't made in a while. Okay, another idea is to go to a raw food restaurant. This is a little bit limited right now, unfortunately, but a lot of restaurants you can still do takeout. For instance, we go to Wild Living Foods whenever we can. It's the best food, I think, ever. It's so good. It's in downtown LA. And you can have a meal and also get some ideas for things you can make yourself. Really look at the menu. Maybe take a picture of the menu and use it as something you can go back to and go, oh yeah, I remember that noodle dish that I wanted to make. That was amazing. Or I remember I had that ranch dressing there. I didn't even know that was possible to do raw. And just starting to kind of do a little looking around to see if you can recreate those dishes. Well, like I said, at the same time getting a meal that you don't have to make yourself that day. Another idea is watching a cooking show. I used to be obsessed with cooking shows, and so did my son. So we used to watch cooking shows all the time. And they're not raw. I don't have a raw cooking show that I used to watch, but we loved Gordon Ramsay. I think he's brilliant, and it would often inspire me to try to do a raw recipe. So that can be really fun. And I love a lot of these ideas because they're sort of do double duty. They provide you with either entertainment or inspiration while also giving you some new ideas to make food. I said that wrong. They provide you with something fun to do in that moment and maybe give you a little respite and also inspire you to maybe make new dishes. The same goes for raw chefs. If you want to find them on YouTube, Annie Fio is a great one. Giuliano is another one. There's so many actually good raw food actual chefs out there preparing food. And if you want to watch their YouTube videos, that's fun too. Another thing you can do that I just started again is to order a CSA box, a community supported agriculture box. So every week this new food comes in a box to your door and you get seasonal local foods. You're supporting local farmers, you're getting organic food, you're supporting organic, and you are getting foods that, like I said, go with the season and that you can create new meals from. So you might get foods in your box that you've never seen before, and they might inspire you to make something different than you've ever thought to make. Or maybe you get way too much of one ingredient or one food, and it inspires you to sort of do a little digging around to see if you can find more recipes for that ingredient. I love CSA boxes. If all else fails, take a break. Sometimes I'll do this too. I call it a smoothie break. And I will do 2-3 days of just drinking green smoothies. I just sort of name it a detox and just enjoy the heck out of not preparing food. I just blend up some really easy stuff. I know it's good for me. I'm fine nutritionally, and it gives me a break from preparing foods when I need that. And that's super easy. So those are some ideas for you. I hope that helped. So nice to see you, and thanks for watching.